Hey everybody, it's Dory with Cauldron of Crafty Creations, and I am going to make some soup today. So I've got my cauldron here beside me, and I've got some celery and onions to chop, and I thought I'd go live and chat with you while I do. So, let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm also going to save all my veggie cutoffs, put them in a bag to make some broth, veggie broth with, or maybe chicken broth. I may been craving. Our good food store has really good rotisserie chickens, so I might go get one of those and throw the bones in the instant pot with the veggies for some make some bone broth. Okay, so just cutting the tips off of these. I cleaned up the celery really good. And I like to keep the end on to keep it all connected, and just chop it all together. It just makes it so much easier. So do that. I am celebrating today. I am celebrating abundance in a myriad of ways flowing into my life. I spent fun girlfriend time with two amazing friends yesterday, and they helped me clean my house. Between chronic pain, bipolar disorder, and major trauma around cleaning as a child, keeping my house clean has always been a struggle for me. I also have too much stuff and need to start getting rid of stuff. For years, I was saying the affirmation, I have abundance in all things. And I finally realized, wait, I have all the things. I need to have less. I want to have less things and more money to pay for experiences and bills. So be careful with your spells and your affirmations, because they may come true in a little bit different way than you're expecting. So I am abundance. I am abundantly supported by the universe. Getting help, and then like it was already at a point where it was kind of struggling, and I was like, oh, I gotta get this cleaned up, and get back to clean, and then my mom died, and of course that was so big, and the grieving process has been intense. And while I'm very proud of myself because I know that I am managing it a whole lot better than I ever thought I would. I mean, for most of my life, I've thought, like, when mom dies, I'm done. I will either be institutionalized or suicidal, or I don't know. But I was like, there's just no way. I just can't live without her. Because we had very deep codependence. But I've been doing a lot of healing work on myself, and I am a lot stronger than I thought I was. And I'm getting out of bed every day. And there have been times in my life where that was not the case. So I'm really proud of myself. And, I've done a lot of healing work on myself, and I'm in an accelerated healing process right now. And I've been doing all of my therapy virtually since I started working with this amazing therapist that I'm working with. And so I'm actually going to go in person on Monday because he has something new. I don't remember what it was that he was saying that he had. And we're going to do EMDR. And I've done EMDR virtually, so I know it can be done that way. But he said that he feels like it works maybe a little bit better in person. And so So I'm going to do that on Monday. I'm really looking forward to it. And, oh, you guys, celebration. I signed my first subscriber in the Moon Magic and Manifestation portal. And so my friend Aurora was here, and she was doing dishes, and yeah. So anyway, I like pick up my phone and I have a DM saying, "Hey, how much is your Moon membership? I want to subscribe." And I told her, and she was like, "Where do I sign up?" So I sent her the link, and she's like, "Done." I was like, "You're my number one subscriber." And so I posted a reel celebrating last night, and super excited. And so I'm doing a full moon sacred circle on Sunday. And I'm going to do a VIP room for people who have registered for the membership by 4:30 on Sunday. No, by 4 on Sunday, because my VIPs will be invited to come in at 4:30, whereas everybody else gets to come in at 5. So I'm super excited. It's going to be a really, really cool circle. It's going to be family friendly, so you can bring your kids. Family friendly, meaning A, Dory's going to keep her swears in check. And B, I will have some fun activities that'll be fun for the kiddos. I'm going to have coloring sheets. And like I said, VIP room for 30 minutes before everybody else gets to come in. So that's going to be super fun. And Luna is my first subscriber. So hello, Luna is the Spanish word for moon. So of course my first subscriber's name is Luna, right? Universe, thank you. More of this. So yeah, yesterday was such an awesome day. Like I got a bunch done, and I had really fun girlfriend time with 2 amazing girlfriends who both helped me with cleaning my house because I had just gotten super overwhelmed with it. So I'm like, yay, the energy is flowing in. Right, Jess? I mean, and I didn't even think about that until today. I was like, oh, that's right. So yes, Luna's subscriber number 1. So she gets to come for VIP room at 4:30 on Sunday, and everybody else can come in at 5. So if you want to join the VIP room, my monthly it's $22 if you pay monthly, and it's 25% off if you pay 6 months at a time, which would be $99. So I can drop the links to register in the comments. Pop those into the subscription in or into the details in YouTube as well. And it was, super excited. And then I'm also going to be announcing something else super exciting on Sunday, so you don't want to miss it. It's going to be super healing and super fun. And then also I'm announcing something new. So the soup I am making today is a bean soup of my own creation. It is, I should have brought scissors over here. Let's see if this is going to work. I might have to go get a pair of scissors. I mean, I only have 40 pair of scissors. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So it's a bean and veggie soup. And it comes out a little bit differently every time I make it because it just depends on like what I have. And but I'm starting with celery and onions. And then okay, I'm gonna go get a different knife too. This is great for veggies. It's a plastic knife. And great for like making like chopping veggies so they don't brown and stuff and go bad as fast. But it's not as great for getting into the onions. So 1 second, sorry. I take that back. I'm not sorry. Was no need to apologize for that. Thank you for waiting while I went and got my knife. Okay, so my soup this time. So I'll do the cook up the onions and celery. And I like to cook my onions and celery until they are like totally translucent and mush. I don't like any crunch in my celery and onions in my soup. That's just me. So I'll do that. And then while those are cooking on the stove, I will cook my, put my dried pinto beans and chickpeas in the Instant Pot. And I cook those with onion and garlic and tons of cumin. I am like obsessed with cumin. It's my favorite spice. Well, I have lots of favorite spices, but it's one of my favorites. And so lots and lots of cumin with the garlic and onion, in the beans. And then I'll add that all together. I have some cauliflower rice that I'm going to put in it. I'm trying to think, do I have any other veggies that are going in this time? I think that might be all this time. And I like my soup really brothy. Like I like lots of broth with my soup. So it's super yummy. And super healthy. I have and then now that we've got my house a lot cleaner, and I know that like I'm gonna have even more energy with the house cleaner because the mess had gotten overwhelming and was definitely kind of like woo heavy, slowing down the energy and stuff. So I am going to start my sourdough starter. So I've been researching and learning a lot about sourdough. I joined several sourdough groups on Facebook. And then I also signed up for a free course on creating a gluten-free sourdough starter. So I think I'm actually going to do that today because once this gets going, I think I will go live again and make the starter. So super excited. And it's common for people to name their sourdough starters. And lots of people have punny sourdough names, and I think they're all awesome and hilarious. But I am going to name my sourdough starter Katie Mama after my mom. And I am going to love and nurture it and enjoy the nourishing, delicious goodness that she provides for me. So sourdough is so amazing. It's so good for us. It the fermentation process helps start the digestive process. And for some people that have gluten allergies, they can they can handle sourdough better than they can handle normal other things with gluten in them. However, okay, the human body is not fully capable of fully digesting wheat, period. None of us. And so I've done a ton of research on this. Wheat Belly, I don't remember the doctor's name. He's cured thousands of people of diabetes just by giving up wheat and gluten. Gluten is only one of the leptins in wheat, or in wheat. There's another one, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's super, super tiny, and it penetrates the wall of your intestines. It like punctures it and so then that allows for food particles to get into your bloodstream. And so wheat, the leptins in wheat literally attack whatever is weak in your body system. So for a lot of us, it's the stomach, it has stomach issues, causes stomach issues. And that's one of the reactions I have to wheat and gluten. And so because of the way that they bred wheat, bread, and would like cross-pollinate and like choose, the most drought resistant and the hardiest and the ones that get the most for the least amount of water and whatever. The way that they, kind of bred that, kind of like the early years of GMO, genetically modifying, it turned the wheat, specifically in the United States, made it like super addictive. Gluten is super addictive. And so scientists discovered in the 1970s that gluten is incredibly addictive. And so they started putting gluten in everything. Because if we put gluten in it, then people will get addicted to it. They'll buy more and our company will make more money. Yeah, thanks for that. And so gluten reacts similarly to cocaine in your brain. And they've done studies where people who eat wheat on average eat like, 500 more calories a day, or even more than that, maybe a significant number more calories a day than people who don't eat wheat, because it has that addiction cycle similar to sugar, where you eat it and your body digests it, and then your body's like, I want more, and so you go eat. And so just, without like measuring and, trying to determine, you just automatically eat more. And, I've given up wheat and gluten many, many times over the years and gone back to it, because it is, I started, 2003, 2004 is when I first gave it up, I believe. My dad had gotten me a membership at Slender Lady. And when I went in to sign up, I signed up for the whole thing. I was like, I'm doing the nutrition and all of it. And then he went over to pay and he's like, no, we're only going to do the basic. And she was like, oh, no, you're not. My dad's a millionaire. He can more than afford to pay all of it. So anyway, she had gluten intolerance. And so she helped me give up wheat and gluten, and then, determined that was making a huge difference. And so in addition to having fewer gastrointestinal issues, digestive issues, when I give up wheat, when I have eaten some of it, I'll have the stomach distress, but it makes my insomnia worse. It makes pain and inflammation worse. And actually, when I was a freshman in college, one of the doctors that I was seeing, the gynecologist actually told me, like, because I told her that my mom had fibromyalgia, and she's like, look at fibromyalgia and gluten. And so, Jess, if you're still watching, I don't know if you know this, but fibromyalgia pain is very much linked to gluten. And so giving up gluten can helps significantly with the pain from fibromyalgia. And several years ago, I was working for this company, and they did this morning breakfast, birthday breakfast once a month. And they rotated between 3 different bakeries in our town, and they would buy like a huge spread. And they'd have pastries and, different fruits, and just like, it was always like pig out, right? Well, I had gone on the anti-inflammatory diet, and so I was not eating any wheat. I wasn't eating any gluten. I wasn't eating any dairy. I wasn't eating sugars, any of it, right? And birthday breakfast came around, and I cheated. And A, I got really sick to my stomach, and B, the pain, I was like, oh my gosh, my back and my knee hurt so bad. What's going on? Oh, it's because I ate wheat and sugar. So the more we can avoid those inflammatory foods, and they're the five most inflammatory foods are wheat, sugar, soy, dairy, and corn. And so, and unfortunately, I love all of those except for soy. I don't care about soy. So, corn has always been one of my favorite vegetables. I just love corn. But I just love the starches. Like, And another interesting thing is that, let me go back to wheat and gluten, because so I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about how wheat, literally the gluten, the leptins, which leptins, if you aren't familiar, leptins are plants' defense against being eaten. So basically, they're the things in plants that make animals sick when they eat them, and they also make humans sick. And animals are smart enough to avoid eating the things that make them sick. Humans are not. And so, so in this podcast, the doctor was talking about how they had this person who had an infection in their eye. And they had tried everything, and they could not get rid of this infection. And so finally, as a last-ditch effort, they had him give up gluten. Sure enough, the infection went away. So, gluten is, it's super toxic. Wheat is very toxic to humans. And part of that is the way that it was bred. Part of that is that in the United States, because corporations run our country and hold Congress hostage and make the decisions, pay for the decisions. Glyphosates are super, super toxic. And a lot of wheat farmers drench their wheat in glyphosates because it makes them easier to harvest. Well, glyphosates are they're, it cause cancer, but they also cause really bad heart issues. And the same company that owns glyphosates makes the pharmaceutical drug to treat the heart problems caused by glyphosate. Yeah, because that's the way things worked in our country. And yeah. So, and I did discover while I was, at one point, somebody was like, no, try organic wheat. It won't bother you. And so I did. I tried organic bread made from organic wheat, and it didn't bother me as much. So, so it, definitely like that made it a little bit better, right? But it still bothered me. And 2 years ago, in December, I was dealing with I was literally dealing with persecution at my job. They were making things up, manufacturing evidence so they could fire me because I'd had a work comp injury. And it was extremely stressful, and I was very angry and frustrated and depressed, and I started eating a bunch of sourdough bread because sourdough bread is supposed to be better for you and easier to digest and not as hard on the gluten's not as hard on you. And so I started eating a lot of sourdough bread. And I ended up in the ER. And I was having pain up here. And like super, super intense pain up here. And then I also had pain lower in my abdomen. And they did a couple of scans. They did a couple of different things. And they said, okay, well, we think you have diverticulitis. We can't actually see it on the CT scan, but we're pretty sure that's what it is. And they also found a large ovarian cyst. And the guy's like, I think the ovarian cyst is a red herring. I think we found that like because you came in with the other pain, but I think the real problem is the colon and diverticulitis. And I was like, because they couldn't see the actual diverticulitis, but my inflammatory markers were super, super high. Yeah, it was just yes, it was stabbing pain, Sally. And so, and I had pain both up here and then down low in the abdomen, which low in the abdomen would have been the ovarian cyst. So they insisted that I do an antibiotic, and I avoid antibiotics. Like I had gone almost 2 years without, yeah, go get it checked out, Sally. Get it checked out because it could, what they thought it was diverticulitis. And that was what they treated me for, which they insisted that I take antibiotics. And I had gone almost 2 years without an antibiotic. And he's like, you have to. And I was like, because they wreak havoc on my system. And, oh, good, Sally. Let me know how it goes. But anyway, so he thought it was, it was the diverticulitis. I'm like, no, my colon was inflamed because I ate a bunch of wheat. I know that that's what it was. I just know because they couldn't actually see diverticulitis, but I had the symptoms. I was like, And so I have been really, really good about staying away from wheat and gluten since then. There are 2 things that I have on rare occasions that have just a little bit of gluten in them. Potato allays from Taco John's have their seasoning, which is the best part. I mean, the potatoes are good too, and the fried potatoes are good, but the seasoning makes them amazing. And like I worked at Taco John's when I was in high school. So and I eat those very, very rarely, like once every several months kind of thing. And then the other one is I love the gyro meat from my favorite gyro place. And I mean, literally like when I moved home from Texas, I was obsessed and I was going in there all the time. Like they all know me and they'd be like, hey, the normal order. And I'd be like, yep. And they'd be like, okay, do you want your mom's normal order too? I mean, it was like, they know me. I mean, to the point that even, like, I don't know, in the last year or so, I had DoorDashed an order and, my mom, I called in a DoorDash order to pick up. I tried to call them directly so that DoorDash wouldn't take a cut, but they weren't answering their phone. They get so busy. And their gyro meat does have breadcrumbs in it. So it does have a little bit of gluten. But it doesn't usually affect me too badly. Unless I have it 2 days in a row. That's when it'll bother me. But anyway, so those are like the only two. And actually I did last summer, I went to a party with my mom and I like got permission from my body to eat whatever I wanted at the party, but I didn't take anything with you. And so I had gluten and stuff and I paid for it. I did get sick, but I didn't get terribly, terribly sick. But like for me, gluten. So right now I'm chopping onions. I already did the celery, Sal. I'm making soup. Gluten or celery and onions. And then I'll put those on the stove and cook them down until they're like totally translucent. And then while those are going on the stove, I'm going to put my pinto beans and chickpeas in the Instapot with garlic and onion and tons of cumin. And then I also have some cauliflower rice that's going to go in the soup. And so it's super yummy. I made it a couple of weeks ago. It's one of the easiest ways to get me to eat a pile of beans and veggies is to put them in a soup. Okay. So this one has like some mold and stuff on the skin. I'm putting the skins in a bag to use to make broth with, but I'm not gonna use the skin from this one because it's not good. You know how they start to get a little bit of mold growing on the outside. And I don't want to put that into my broth. So I'm saving the veggies to also make veggie broth or possibly chicken broth because I've been craving a rotisserie chicken from the good food store. So I saw you comment that you thought it might be menopause, Sally, and that's, so I don't know if you know, I didn't know until a couple of years ago when I was like having some symptoms and my acupuncture was like, oh, that's probably perimenopause. And I was like, wait, perimenopause, what's that? So menopause is like when your cycle ends, like that moment, right? But perimenopause is basically reverse puberty that women get to go through. And it often starts in your mid 30s and then goes on until your cycle finally stops. And there are millions of symptoms. I have 2 different friends that have perimenopause groups. One of them was like having the symptoms and she's like, what is wrong? My brain is on fire. Like all kinds of symptoms. And the thing is, most doctors don't know. Most doctors don't know about it. They don't know nearly enough because most of the research has been done on men's health. And anyway, I won't go down that route because I will get angry and I don't need to get mad about that right now. But yeah, so ask your doctor about perimenopause, Sal, and also if you'd like, I can post the links to my 2 friends' perimenopause groups. Allison was a health coach, so she's a scientist. Then she got into Optavia and doing health coaching, weight loss coaching. And then she discovered that she was dealing with perimenopause, and went back and got a certification to coach people, women with perimenopause. And so, like, all these crazy symptoms that we have no idea are related to our hormones, and doctors just don't have a clue. And like, I had switched to a new provider. I wanted to go to the same doctor my mom was going to, but it was like months to get in to see her. And so I also liked the doctor who saw overflow patients for her. So she was a resident. And so she only saw patients one day a week. And so, you couldn't get in to see her. It took a while. And so she had a PA who would see overflow patients. And so I was like, okay, just put me in with whoever whoever has an availability that also has overflow patients go to Brittany. And so they're like, okay. And they set up my appointment with Danielle Chapin. And so I go to my appointment. Y'all, one of the worst doctors I've ever been to. One of the worst. And she was also a PA, I believe. But anyway, so I have some of the best doctors I've been to are NPs. Like, I do not, PA, NP, like, doctor, it all depends on the person way more than which level of qualification they have. So, first of all, she interrupted while the nurse was still doing my intake. And she's like, "Are you done yet?" And I'm like, "Wow, hello." And the nurse is like, "She's got a lot of meds." And she's like, "Well, boy, I guess." And then, the nurse is doing, and she goes, "You take 30 milligrams of melatonin? That means your body's not making your own anymore." And I was like, and then, after the nurse leaves and she's going through stuff and she's like, Cytomel, oh, I hate that medication. I was like, well, my thyroid was within normal range, and when my naturopath put me on this, literally within 48 hours, my life was a million times better. So if you're not going to prescribe it for me, I'll go to somebody else. And then I was talking about some symptoms that I was like, they could have been from my head injury a couple of years ago. And I said, but then again, they could also, I know that those are also symptoms of perimenopause. And she's like, "You're way too young for perimenopause." And I was like, "I'm 42. And she's like, "Yeah, you're way too young." I'm like, no. So after I left, I was like, I will not be scheduling with her again. And I told my acupuncturist about it. And she was like, "Now, who were you seeing before?" And I told her, and she's like, "I would give Danielle another chance." And I was like, "Oh, hell no." I said, "I'm not going back to Kinsey," because that's another story. Several stories, actually. Misdiagnosed another friend and told her she was going through menopause when she actually had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and missed my friend's cancer diagnosis. And by the time it was diagnosed by somebody else, it had metastasized to the point where it was too late. So yeah, anyway, we'll get off the topic of bad doctors. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not going back to Danielle. I'm not going back to Kinsey either. And so then I went ahead and scheduled with Mariah, which was like 2 months out. And then I went to Brittany for a follow-up in between. And Brittany's like, "Well, I don't see patients, exclusively. Like, I don't have my own patients." I was like, "I know, I have an appointment with Mariah. I just can't get into her for 2 months and needed to follow up on this diabetes." And yeah. So yeah, some people just, yeah. And I mean, like, being my size, there's a whole lot of, like, I could go on for days about the discrimination and treatment that fat people get by doctors. And I mean, literally, like, we're like one of the last classes of people who it's still permissible and totally acceptable to discriminate against. And it's really shitty. It's, yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to decide, like my pan is filling up with onions, but I love, love, love onions. So I think I'm going to keep going. Well, Sal, you will be in my heart and my prayers. And I would love to know when you find out. Yeah, I mean, obviously it could be a million different things. But one of the things that most doctors are not going to recognize that it could be something you're eating. So, yeah, if you're interested in any information about like elimination diets or any of that kind of stuff, let me know. It can be really hard to give up certain foods, but there are a lot of foods that can cause issues. And unfortunately, like, who writes a lot of the curriculum for med schools? The pharmaceutical companies. So doctors aren't trained to help us get healthy. Doctors are trained to get us addicted to pharmaceutical medication, drugs. They're trained to get us addicted to drugs. That's what doctors are trained to do. And also, if you look at what the FDA recommends for food, they're like My Plate. So another bad doctor. So they wanted me to go to a clinical pharmacist for diabetes. And I wasn't pleased about going to the appointment. I kind of had a bad attitude about it because I knew that he was going to want to talk to me about diet. And the week before I went to see him, I took my mom to an appointment with a dietitian. And I pushed back a little bit with her because she's like, and you should be eating grains with every meal. And I'm like, she has diabetes and she's trying to lose weight and you're telling her to eat grains with every meal? No. And she's like, well, actually, I'm like, no. And I talked about wheat and she's like, that's just for people who are sensitive to it. And I was like, no, the human body cannot digest wheat. And then she's telling her to eat dairy. And I'm like, and yogurt. And I'm like, the sugar in yogurt undoes all of the good that could have been done by the probiotics. And she's like, no, that's why I recommend Greek yogurt. And I'm like, still, there's way too much sugar in it. And she's like, you just don't know. You just don't know. And she's like, well, there would have to be research. I'm like, I've done the research. I've done the peer-reviewed articles and books that tell the actual truth, not what the government wants us to believe so that we stay sick and miserable. So we can't like actually recognize the shit that they're doing and make them fix it. So anyway, so then I go to see this guy and, I was like, I had gotten a blood glucose monitor for diabetes finally, and to monitor my own blood glucose. And I had gotten it like a week or so before, and I hadn't taken the time to read the instructions. So I took it with me and I was like, I'll let him teach me how to use this. Set it up. That's something useful he can do. So we did that. And then he's trying to talk me into going on this other medication. And I'm like, no, we just started something. I'm going to see how that works. And he's like, well, we need to be more aggressive and blah, 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 blah. And then I told him that I had no intention of going on insulin. And he's like, oh, and he like mansplained for like a full 5 minutes on how going on insulin is absolutely inevitable. And there's absolutely no way that you can lower your blood sugar and turn this around without going on insulin. And then he pulls out the My Plate guidelines. And I go, you can throw that in the trash because that's exactly what it is. And he looked at me and I was like, you tell people to eat grains at every meal. That's not healthy. You tell people to eat dairy. That's not healthy. You tell people this. You tell people this. None of this is healthy. And he's just like, well, what do you? And I said, I'm not this size because I don't know what to eat. I've done more research on nutrition than most nutritionists. Like I've read all the books. I've done, I mean, I'm an intellectual, I'm an educator, I'm a passionate reader. Like, I've done the research. I know what I should be eating. I'm this size because I was molested from age 3 to age 6 by my father. And I made a subconscious decision at age 3 to gain weight to protect myself from him. And I'm still working on healing those parts. And then I've also been, went through continual abuse from him until we quit speaking in 2014. And also, have had other multiple abusive relationships and sexual assaults. So, and that's, so that's why I'm the size that I am. And he's like, well, what do you think you should be eating? And I was like, beans and quinoa is the one grain that, yes, is good to eat. And he goes, well, you have to be careful with the carbs in beans and quinoa too. It's just like, whatever. And so between that and going to the emergency room for the diabetes in July, I was like, and he's like, well, if you decide you want to go on this medication, I really think you should. And we can get you on it before you see Mariah again in a month and blah, blah, blah. And let's schedule an appointment for you to come see me the same day you see Mariah. And I'm like, I'm not going to fight with him. So I scheduled it. And then after I left, I called and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to see him. He was a jerk, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to a nurse about something. And she's like, oh, have you seen Mandy? Have you talked to Mandy? She's another clinical pharmacist and she's wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And so if there's one way, the best way to motivate Dory to do something is to have an arrogant man mansplain to her why she can't do it. And so I was like, oh yeah, watch me. And I think that was like, I think the week after I saw him was the first time I saw my new therapist. And I was like, all right, we got to get this part that goes ahead and orders the food that is not healthy and spends money I don't have on food that I shouldn't be eating. So let's do that. And it was like, I'm like, skip I don't need the pleasantries. I don't need let's get to know you, let you get to know me slowly and build trust. Like, I already know that I like and trust you. Let's go deep. And so I did that. And I totally transformed how I was eating. I was getting tons of vegetables, and I was getting the vegetables and then food prepping them for both my mom and I. And I was making tons of salads and eating. So I have not eaten like traditional salad dressings at home. I mean, I have at restaurants, but at home for years. For the longest time, it's just olive oil and salt. Like, I don't even add vinegar, just olive oil and salt. That's all I need. So then when family was in town, the end of July, I was making a salad for a family party, and I I did olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And it was so good. And then I had a bunch of cilantro in it, and it was like that, and then cabbage and broccoli and I don't know what other vegetables. And it was like a huge hit. And so I made that one for my mom and I, like a cup, like on repeat. The other thing that I started putting in my salads is hummus. And so I would do hummus and olive oil and mix it up and in the salad, and then it becomes like a creamy dressing, So that's another delicious way to do it. And so I was doing that. I was making quinoa. My mom's like, oh, you finally have me sold on quinoa, because I made a ginger sesame quinoa with chickpeas in it that was so freaking good. So it was like sesame oil, ginger, like lots and lots of ginger, and garlic. Oh, and then also coconut aminos. Love coconut aminos. So I made it with that and it was so good. I need to make that again. Maybe I'll do that with my next batch of quinoa. I've got whatchamacallit. Last night I made what I call my chicken soup quinoa. It's the quinoa with an oil and then rosemary, granulated onion, sea salt. I feel like I put something else in there, but I guess no. Yeah, just those three things. And the reason I call it that is that when I made it with rice at my mom's house one time, just like threw the other stuff in with it because I thought it sounded good, it smelled like chicken soup. So I called it my chicken soup rice. And I made that the other night when I was feeling really sick. And then it was so good. I was like, oh, that's so good. I want more. But the rice is higher in carbs. So let's try it with quinoa. And I don't love it quite as much with the quinoa. The quinoa needs more of the onion powder. I didn't put enough onion powder in it, so it's not quite as good. But it's better for me, so I'm going to eat it anyway. But yeah, I'll have to make my sesame ginger quinoa again. So yeah, what I need to do is write out some of these recipes. Although the thing is, I don't measure. I just like start dumping stuff in and, I pour it in until the ancestors whisper, that's enough, child. Measure with your heart. Measure with your heart. Okay. Awesome. So, this is my last onion. I'm literally doing the entire, what is it? Premium sweet onions. I'm trying to find the amount, the weight here. It's probably 5 pounds. Why don't I see how much it is? Produce of Mexico. 5 pounds. Yep, just like I thought. Yeah, so 5 pounds of onions and the one thing of celery. And then, but I mean, this is a very large soup kettle and I will fill it up with lots and lots of broth because I like my soup really brothy. So yum. I'm thinking, maybe I should go to the store and get some zucchini and add that to it too. We'll see, because my mom really liked it when I made it with zucchini. But I might just go with what I've got because that's easier. Let it be easy. Just go with what you've got. I've got plenty to make it delicious and healthy and hearty and all of the things. Oh, so I'm going to start my sourdough starter, but I also found a recipe for bread that tastes like sourdough. And and it's so funny because I'm like, I don't have the energy to cook anything. And I'm literally like, I'm either 0 or 1,000. Like I don't have the energy to cook anything. I'm ordering DoorDash or like putting a can of soup in the microwave. Or, oh, let's make a giant pot of homemade soup and let's make homemade bread and let's make. Yeah, well, I guess that's maybe that has maybe bipolar disorder has something to do with it. I'm either, one polar end or the other. So I've got my soup about ready to go on the stove, and then I will get my beans going in the Instapot, and maybe I'll come back and do another live and start that sourdough starter that I've been wanting to do. Why not, right? Oh. So, last onion in the pot, and I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for watching. I will remind me if somebody would put full moon in the comments so I can put the link to sign up for my $0 full moon circle tomorrow evening. It's family friendly. There'll be a coloring sheet for the kiddos, and we're embracing the sacred within to heal ourselves with the Virgo full moon. And it's going to be super awesome. And if you want to attend the VIP pre-party for the half an hour before, you can sign up for my Moon Magic and Manifestation portal, which is $22 a month, or you can save 25% off and get it for 6 months at a time for $99. So I'm celebrating Luna, my first founding member who signed up yesterday, registered yesterday. So Luna and I will be having a pre-party, and maybe you'll join us. We'd sure love to have you. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you do something today that sets your soul on fire and brings you bliss and brings you joy, and that you follow your bliss. Love you all. Take care. I will see you next time. Bye.